Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching the podcast or listening to the podcast. Tell me your story. This is your host, Chris Baker, and today's story is none other than Mr. Rod Mills. Give it up for the man. Woo, woo. Did it freeze? You still there? Okay. So we're gonna do like how we always do. I just want to first say it is an honor and privilege just to have you on the show,
Mhm.
and we'll just dig right into this and ask like the simple question: how did it begin for you? Talk about your early life, your childhood.
Grew up in the projects of Cleveland, Ohio. They are called Off-Way projects. Off-Way projects. Off-Way estates. Nothing like estates, but uh, went to a school called Dyke Elementary. I think it's a Montessori school now there. Kennard Junior High, which just tore down. Graduate of East Tech High. Um, Interesting thing about East Tech, Jesse Owens went there.
Really?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, a lot of
He
people.
went there at East Tech. Then he came to the Ohio State University. Uh, yes, he came from down south, landed there. He was in the old Tech because where I was is in the new Tech built across the street.
Now, my
So
question to you, okay, since Jesse Owens graduated from your school, now was he like kind of glorified at school? Was he like that? Everybody was like, you got to be just like Jesse Owens.
um, people at track, I guess, heard more about him than other people did. So
Like, who's Jesse Owens?
yeah, we knew about him being there and stuff. That's a proud thing. Um, I miss desegregation, because it was like it happened in 81. So 99% of the time I went with African Americans to school. So
So how does that? I mean, you're living in a time period where you kind of seen it all. Kind of. How does it feel just to see it like everything just come together?
it's interesting because my son had a friend, he went to East Tech, and he asked me, he said, "Oh, so you're a bus there like me?" I said, "No, I lived across the street." He said, "In the projects across the street?" I said, "Yeah, I did. I walked." So he was amazed by that. So that's different.
Like you grew up in the projects. Now,
Right.
why did I say that? What?
It doesn't sound like it, but I kind of connected with the geeks and freaks.
Okay,
I
okay.
was going to be a tough guy, wasn't going to be in the gangs and stuff. So you get in where you fit in. So
They're like, you was in the projects, and I don't believe that, boy.
right. I had to get in where I fit in, the geeks and freaks. So,
How'd you
you know,
survive?
how did I survive? There were gangs. We did know about that, and they were around. And Brick City Outlaws, the 3030, Devil Dogs. They're around. You just you knew about guys, you stayed away from them,
Mhm.
and sometimes you would get in trouble because when I hang out with my friends and stuff, they tell the funny story about when the Brick City Outlaws chased me back home. So,
Now,
so
name some times that you actually got yourself in a little bit of trouble. You came across these gangs where you're just like
yeah,
walking around. It just happened.
um, that happened because somebody had a BB gun and shot me with it.
Oh
So
no!
I chased him through the alcove. He was running, did a whistle. As my buddies talk about it, because we're still friends to this day, and they said, "You're running in there with the butt of the gun, chasing him. Next thing I know, you run out the alcove, and there's
Oh,
about 13 boys chasing you."
oh no!
And I said, I had them too. I had them by two links. I was burning up. sidewalk, and there was the door right there. The door right there, and I was telling my brother, yelling, "Open the door," because the steps were right there to go upstairs. So I was going to hit the steps and run upstairs because the way I was moving, we're going to stop. Yes. Next thing I know, the door closed in my face.
Oh no.
When I got there, and my friends laughed, they said, "You should have looked at your face and you tried to talk your way out of it." Because I was like, "Oh no, there's a God." I turned around, I said, "These boys won't be here." Yeah. So it's about 13, 11 boys, like,
Oh
you know,
no.
and my friends talk about it. So you try to talk away. I say, "Okay, okay. Spite is between me and Tyrone. Just us. I'm us and stuff. We're going to have a fair fight." We said, "No, it's not going to be a fair fight."
Oh
you know,
no. No,
but
no.
right, lucky for me, the door opened and I fell in. And my brother, I said, "What the hell did you do?
You trying to get
Did
me
you
killed?
see me running a herd of boys to Dodge City?" He said, "Oh, well, I went to call Dad." And I was like, "Did you have to lock the door?"
You trying to get me killed, man? What's going
Right,
on here?
right. It was one of those things where the principal saved me the next day because he he wouldn't have it in his school in junior high. He knew what was going on, wouldn't have it. And people were this thing, like it was going through the school. Ron's going to fight the Brick City Outlaws. Ron's going to fight the Brick City. That was
What?
not my plan at all. Everybody's like 3 o'clock. He's going to fight the Brick City Outlaws. And it got to me. I said, "I know it's not my plan to fight them.
You better take
Everybody's
on the
passing
whole
it
team.
around." Yes, and it got to the principal that was pissed off, and he brought me and Tyrone in the office and he's yelling. And he said, "There's not going to be this crap here. This is my school." And he's like, "Ron, you think you're a tough guy? I know you hang around with those other guys." It's like, it's never my
Oh
plan to
man.
fight him. You're right.
He called you
Never
out.
my plan to fight a gang. Right. Never my plan to fight a gang and stuff. So he thought I was. He said, "Have you lost your mind?" I said, "No, no, it was never my plan. Just turned out that way." But it saved me. So
So nothing came about of it?
no, they kind of let it go because my father, when he was in the house, he was a little crazy. Rumor was he was looking for him with a Winchester rifle. So
Uh-oh.
yeah, and they did see him with a Winchester rifle. He's a little loose sometimes, but
Mhm. Well, anybody that wanted to know all this time, that's watching and listening right now you know the true story.
yes, my mother planned to go up to the school and help me, and I said, "But if you do that, then I had to be in the Mama's Boy Relocation Center for the rest of my life." She didn't understand.
Like, what? What are you talking about? I'm just trying to help you
Right? You
out.
can't. Yeah, you can't go up there and protect me.
What are you doing?
Right. But somehow I got out of it, so I'm
So,
here.
I mean, other than that, was your education pretty good?
Uh, East Tech, I think it was okay. It was okay because what you put in, you got out and stuff. And most of the guys I hung with, we went to school every day. Went to school every day, and it was like, okay, C is average. So if you don't have a learning disability, you can at least make C's. But we're kind of in the A and B category, depending on what was the class and stuff. So we kind of took it serious, and we hung out in places where the really bad guys didn't hang out. My mom tells the story like, "How are you going to get in trouble and you hang out at the Woodland Branch Library?" You did. We hung out at the Woodland Branch Library, stuff. So
Staying safe, staying out the
right,
streets.
right, and that's it, you are who you hang with, and to this day, I'm friends with those guys because who they were. They weren't looking for anything. We did things. My sister had a curfew before I did because she's more popular. My younger sister, and she got on my mom said, "Why doesn't he have a curfew?" And she said, "I know where he is all the time." And I'm feeling bad. I'm supposed to be the cooler older brother.
Yeah.
I said, "You do not." And she said, "Okay, well, let's talk about a particular day. You come home, do your homework, you get dinner, whatever is I've made and stuff while I'm at work." She said, "You'll probably go to the Woodland Branch Library, hang out there, some books or something." She said, "Then you go down to Mr. B's because they have the pinball wizard game, and you guys try to beat each other's score, when you have quarters."
I just
Then she said, "Weekends get even more exciting." She said, "Then you get sleepy about 10 o'clock." And she said, "Weekends get even more exciting." He said, "Because you're either over Randy's house, you're either over Cliff's house, and the mothers knew where we were." And she said, "Didn't you white stay up to 3 playing Monopoly, playing Life, or playing chess?" you know, talking crap to each other, eating popcorn, whichever, whatever and stuff, making lame jokes. So I was like, I was hurt. She was right.
so
I
somebody
wasn't a cool kid.
so somebody's
Right.
wondering.
I wasn't a cool
You're
kid.
probably like, what is that show on Netflix that everybody's watching? Playing Dungeons and Dragons. You guys are
Oh, we never
into
played Dungeons and Dragons, right? But we did play chess, and to this day, I don't really know how to play checkers, but I know how to play chess because my friend Randy taught me how to play chess. I don't know how to play checkers, and the thing was to beat him because he taught me, and so
and he was probably the master at it too.
yes, he was on a chess team, and they won like a city champion or something. So
So you ain't beating him.
right, you hang out with people on the chess team, you're not going to get into much trouble. Plus, we knew guys, and they try to introduce stuff to us. They like, yeah, we're still in these cars. What we do is, you take them to Chop Shop, you get a couple of grand easy, depending on what the car is and stuff. So what if you get caught? They say, well, you do 6 months easy. No, that part, right? So no, that's not for me. So you knew guys that went to juvie and jail when we got older too and stuff. So it just wasn't for us.
Huh. So
Even
growing
those
up,
guys, the guys I hung with, none of them got in trouble. None of them.
so was there any like challenges or obstacles you guys had to overcome growing up?
I guess um, the transition when we got out of high school too. What to do next was probably the biggest thing. You know,
Would you decide?
the two guys, two of my friends went to the military. So, well, I think it was the Air Force. One went to the Air Force, and went to. They might have both went to the Air Force. Yeah, we both went to the Air Force. Um, I had decided from back that at first I was going to work because I said I'm going to work, get some money. I'm not going to school. Luckily for me, I had a mother that knew more about me than I knew more about me, and she made me take the SAT. And this is a woman that barely made it through high school, and she said, "This is test I want you to take." And I paid for it. And I was like, "What are you talking about? The SAT?" And she was like, "I've already paid for it and I want you to take it." And I was like, my older brother Chuck, I was like, "Hey, you didn't say Chuck had to take this test." And said, "No, he plays guitar. He took off with his band and went to California, played guitar and stuff. So took off his band, went to California, said, no, he wants to be a musician."
Okay.
And I said, "You're not giving my sister, you can make her." She said, "No, this project just to get her through high school." She said, "You are going to take the test." And she said, "You're my best chance of getting somebody through college."
How'd
And I
that make
said,
you
I want to
feel?
work. I want to work. And she said, yeah, you can work, but you're going to take this test. She said, trust me, you'll go back to school. She was right. I worked 2 years. I was like, I hated the jobs. So I said, I'll take a couple of classes at community college. I was trapped then. I was like, this is it. I got to do this, Luckily, she made me take the SAT. I was the first person in our family to graduate. I got an associate's, then I went to Cleveland State, got a bachelor's. So you don't have to be a college graduate to raise one. You just have to know who your children are.
Yeah.
So and she knew, yeah.
How'd that make you feel though? I mean, she always busted on you, but finally she got to that point where she got it clear to you. And you took that SAT, and after working in the work field for 2 years, you were like, "Oh man, this ain't for me. There's something more. I have a greater calling." How did that feel?
Um, it's really is a testament to her. She was just, smart enough to know who I was before I knew who I was. You know, she was. I would say what fascinates me in the most intelligent people, I think, not the people with the intellectual, is emotional intelligence is great. You can make people do things that they normally wouldn't do. You know, Martin Luther King is like, we're going to march. Yeah, we're going to march over the bridge. They're going to stick dogs on us. They can beat us with clubs and stuff. But he got people, you're not going to fight back. Emotional intelligence, he talked to him. Now, it could be used for good or evil, and we see that with Hitler. It can be used for good or evil. But people with emotional intelligence are, I think, even more adept and sometimes deadlier than people with intellectual intelligence. But she had that, so and it was just it worked for good. So there were things I did that scared her and everything and stuff. And my little thing, I had animals. She was terrified of bugs, and I was always, you know, had bugs in jars, looking at them in the house and stuff like that. She's terrified of anything creepy crawly. She just keep it in her room. Don't want to know.
Now,
See,
what kind of bugs were you
because
getting?
um, we catch like mantis, praying mantis. Then I moved up to things like I got a chameleon. I had hamsters, gerbils, stuff like that. She's terrified of all that stuff. Just keep it in her room. She said because I would read about it and everything and stuff. The only thing she didn't have a problem with was tropical fish. Matter of fact, she had me put together a tank for her.
I could see that.
Yes, she loved tropical fish, so and a community tank. So that she didn't have a problem with. The other stuff she was terrified of. So
It's like, well, fish ain't so bad. I'll be okay with that. This other
right,
stuff, man, I'm afraid they might get out the tank, end up in my hair.
right. She was scared of all of it, but she knew I'd kind of studied up on it, looked in, read stuff on it.
So is that what you ended up pursuing for like a career after you graduated from college?
Um, for a minute, I was lost, and it was just like what I was going to do. I was going to probably be a lab tech, and I was like, yeah, lab tech. And I was about to get into the clinical part of it and stuff. I made it to the clinical part of it. But then there was something that came out that nobody knew about. This one of those plagues. It was called AIDS. Nobody knew about it, but they knew it was coming from the blood. And guess what we were working with?
But
Yes. I was like, and because nobody knew what was going on, nobody knew the truth about it. So it's just like you're going to be with needles, you're going to be with blood, and it's like I don't think this is for me.
hold
you
on,
know,
wait. So with AIDS becoming like a huge thing, kind of like break it down for the viewer, the younger viewer that doesn't quite
Hmm.
understand.
It to the younger viewer, it would be like COVID on steroids, but you didn't have social media. We just knew people were dying. We knew it came from blood. They didn't know and stuff, and it's like I was taking tubes of it. We had one of the classes was drawing blood and stuff. I drew it from my partner. They drew it from me. How to do it, the different tubes, the anticoagulants in it and stuff. It was secure in the tube, but you had to take the top off too, and there would be droplets. They had no idea what was going on at that time.
Yeah.
Now they have a handle on it. It was just, it was like I said, it was like COVID on steroids. But
Who
you
was
weren't staying in the house.
who would you say was the first big name, like celebrity wise, that came, forth and said, "I got AIDS"?
Rock Hudson, that I remember clearly. That was one of the big ones. And I remember they were afraid. Oh, he kissed this girl in a scene. We weren't getting it from kissing, but it's like you had no idea. Stuff was racing around. There was confusion, and so there's a lot of misinformation. So nobody knew what the heck was going on. So
So would you say for a while, like everybody was kind of freaking out about the AIDS, kind of like COVID?
definitely, definitely, definitely. But there are a lot of good people that help people through and help people, in hospitals and stuff, and it didn't scare them off. So those people were true heroes. It didn't scare them off, and then we start to learn more about it, and then you know, and you get help a greater amount of people then because the fears died down.
Yeah, I could see that. It wasn't like, and that was probably the bonus too. Like you said, it wasn't like social media was all over the place, and where fear wasn't striking everybody, kind of like how COVID did. So you were able to get a grasp on it, take care of it, try to figure out, what can we do to take care of this problem, get it out the way,
Mhm.
so that everybody's not freaking out about it no more. But you said you were like, okay, I'm working with blood. I I don't know if I want any part of this, right?
Yeah, it was just like I got these tubes and stuff. But earlier, there's another calling that I think, and that the path I took as a social worker, because when I was a teenager, I became a Catholic. I'm no longer a Catholic. But I was about 15, he became a Catholic. There's a gentleman named Brother Hugh Henderson. He's passed on now. He's African American with the Society of the Precious Blood, which is like an order. Like nuns have an order and stuff. He wasn't a priest, he considered assistant priest, but he was an order and he took certain vows and stuff. So one day I'm there and I see a guy on like maybe a Tuesday or something delivering these baskets of food and stuff, and he had the frock, and I was like, "What's he doing? Most preachers don't work, and it's Sunday." So I talked to him. He said, "Yeah, you want to help me?" So delivered a couple of baskets with him and stuff, and to talk to him and stuff. Went up the rectory, and the church was like not far from where we were. It was in the area where we were. So got to talk to him and everything and stuff. Um, Went to catechism class, became a Catholic because of him and stuff, and I liked what he was doing and help some people and stuff, and the church it was white and black there, so it's interesting. And Brother Hughes was his dynamic on the piano. He had a great voice. He was hilarious too. It's like
I'm just
just
thinking,
had.
thinking to myself, like, wow, man, your story is kind of similar to mine because that's how I got into the Catholic Church myself.
Hmm.
You got that mentor, you found somebody to connect with. his name was Father Dave. He's out in Toledo now. Father Dave Nuss. But because and everybody else was kind of like a boring, they didn't really seem that really exciting. But he always brought the excitement to the church. He,
Mm.
gave me that feel like he always wanted to be there, and he wanted to do more. And that got my attention, made me more interested in going to church. Like, dude, I want to learn more.
Right,
What do you got up your sleeves? So I kind of
right.
like in a way I understand what you're talking about because I kind of went through the same thing myself.
Brother Hughes played the organ and the piano, so we're taking the host and stuff. And I'm listening. You play the silent music while people are taking the host and going up there. And I was like, "Is that Come Sail Away by Styx?" you know,
just, just jamming away.
right? So I'm like, it's like a organ version of "Come Sail Away." And I said, "Brother Hughes, were you playing Come Sail Away by Styx?" He said, "Yeah, it took place on a boat." I said, "More like a spaceship," but it's like, you know, he would play different stuff. I I like Billy Joel because of him. He loaned me, you know, some evenings when I would hang around with my guys and stuff, and I've helped him and stuff. He would take down the damn Christmas tree until March. But I'd help him. I'd go to Recre, talk to him and stuff, and it was like, "What are you listening to?" "Oh, it's Billy Joel, it's a piano player," and stuff. So he started talking to me about joining the order. He said, "You in high school, what are you gonna do when you get out?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "How about joining the order, Society of Precious Blood?" I said, "Okay, well then the plans, tell me about it." So he says, well, you have to go to school. And he said, and you take vows. And he said, and I said, "Tell me about vow of is it order vow of poverty?" And I said, "Well," I said, "they give you a house, they give you a car."
They set
I
you
said,
up,
"I'm in a
man.
project." So I'm like, you have a place to live, they give you a stipend. I look like you have more than me. But yeah, so I was like, "Oh, okay. You can do that." He said, "Vow of obedience to the Pope." And I could do that too and stuff. He said, "Vow of chastity." I'm a teenager and I was still a virgin at the time, like 16. And I said, "Well, wait a minute, what's chastity?" He said, "Can't have any sex." I said, "Brother Hughes, you can't have any sex." He said, "No." I said, "Don't you get urges?" He said, "Yeah, but I pray and they go past and stuff." And it's like, I said, "It's not for me because I'm really praying the other way to get some." so, it's not for me, that vow.
No, I think I'll pass on that one.
Right. Right. So after I was done with the whatchamacallit, um, I was done with being a lab tech. They're looking at my stuff, and the guy was like, you know, "Is it in community college?" I would say, if you don't want to have that baggage with that money, 2 years in a community college, and then move on to the college of your choice. You you have the 4 year degree at that name of that college, but you hardly have no debt after this 2 years. And so you're really paying for 2 years in your bigger college, which I transferred to Cleveland State with. So he was like, "Well, you seem to like a lot of sociology, anthropology, stuff like that." And stuff. He was like, "You ever think about being a social worker?" Changed it, went to school of social work and Cleveland State when I was graduated from there. School didn't look back. It's like my first job. The incredible thing was I the housing project I grew up in a place called Friendly Inn, in the middle of the housing project I grew up in. And
What?
then 3 days a week, I had to be at East Tech High School doing outreach. I felt like Welcome Back Carter. I was like, I'm 7 years. I thought it was the greatest job. I thought it's the greatest job, 7 years. But I was working with guys who were selling drugs on paper and stuff like that. I loved it. And then the school, I did outreach in the school. I remember running into one of my old teachers there. I was in the hallway. And he turns around. He was like, Mills, are you still at school? And I said, yeah, yes, sir. I was like, one more credit, I'm out of here. And he's like, it's criminal for your dumb butt to be here. You know, and for weeks, I'm letting him think I'm going to school until he saw me in the teacher's lounge getting coffee.
He's like,
And
what?
he said, oh my God, what are you doing? I said, I'll get some coffee. The day's starting. He was like, oh my God, you're so out of here now. One of the other teachers telling me, say, he's the social worker here, outreach social worker. So, but yeah, I love that job because I go back in my old school. It's like, wow, I loved it.
Did it
The
did it
7 years.
feel weird at all? I mean, kind of
Huh?
going when you first went back, did it feel weird and strange at all? I mean, just a whole
It- No, it didn't. I loved it. I was like, oh my God, it was to see some teachers that were still around. It was just like, but they were happy for me too. Say, oh,
like Mr.
and
Miles.
right, going back to the community, I knew people there, you know, and it gave me it gave me credit because their aunts and uncles are like, oh yeah, he lived there. He is like, oh yeah, he said come to this place too. Is like he went to the same school, so it gave me a lot of credit. It's like I wasn't coming in from the outside.
Yeah, and you yeah, like you said, you was there. You graduated from there.
Somebody when I got the most credit from the guys who are drug dealing. I got the most credit because I have them on paper and they had to come in the groups that I did. And the most cred and stuff. And they mentioned the guy they was working for at one time. The guy was the younger brother of one of my good friends that we play Monopoly and stuff like that. He went to the Air Force. And I'm not going to say his name, but they mentioned his name. I said, oh, I know him. Tell him I said hi. It's like, you do not know him. You do not know him. You're going to get killed. And I said, no, tell him, how's his mom? How's his mom and stuff, his brother. And they said, you shouldn't play this game. You do not know him because they were working for him. They're afraid of him. I said, no, tell him I said hi. You know, it's like, it's your funeral. You don't even play like you know him. He's like, oh, yeah, yeah. How's his mom? They went back and told him, he said, yeah, how's his mom thinking he's going to kill me? Yeah, yeah. It was like, oh my God, what you call it? You grew up with him and stuff. But he wasn't. He was my sister's age. My sister used to beat up on him as a little girl. He's dead now. He tried to expand his drug thing to DC and got shot up. But he was a man for a while there. So that gave me a lot of credit with them. Somehow they was like, in their mind, I was in the game before, and I got out of it. I never was. I was a geek. They're like, Mills was in the game. He was deep in it, and he got out. To
So they
them,
thought.
that I never stopped them from thinking that.
So they
You
thought.
know,
Hey,
right? They thought it's some old drug czar that I
hey,
got out the game and stuff. So,
if it
but
cuts
I
off,
just knew somebody.
if it cuts off, just click start. I don't pay for Zoom.
Okay.
I just want to let you know
Okay.
before it does.
Yeah. So, yeah, that gave me a lot of cred working with them. So
So
they thought his younger days he was wild and stuff. No, they had
that
no
dude was
idea.
nuts.
Right.
He was a
Right.
madman.
Right.
So did it,
So yeah, but
in a way, did it help you out a lot too with your social work when you came across people like with similar backgrounds? They're like, "Oh, I know
yeah,
you. We heard all about you."
mm. I knew their aunts. I knew I went to school with them. Their aunts, people like that. Some of their parents and stuff like that. I knew that helped me out a lot. So it's just what I had another job because with social work you don't get paid top dollar as a case manager.
Mhm.
So I for 8 years I worked for a county all night. They had contingents at that time. You go out with and you get kids that are abused or neglected off the street. I did that weekend and holidays. So I'd have like a night shift on the weekend. So I'm going out with one girl, and we go into the projects to get this kid that's left alone and stuff. So we park there, and some of my guys are working the street. And I get out the car and say, "What up, Bills?" I say, "Hey, yeah, watch my car. Nobody gonna touch that old Datsun. Some of them had cars better than me, and nobody gonna touch that old Datsun." I said, "Watch my car." And so she's with me, and we do the job. So she gets back and stuff, and she says, to the supervisor, "Come talk to me. So and so is with you." And she's like, "Ron, do you know drugs?"
Right,
Me?
welcome back from the
Uh,
commercial break. Before we went off, we was talking about how you were working on a night shift.
yeah, it's the county. So we went in to get this kid out, but she saw me talking to some guys who's obviously dealing and stuff. So it's like you get some to stop, but then there's some, they find something better, and then there's some that it was addictive, and they couldn't stop. So you still didn't you still didn't break you didn't break your rapport with them. You worked with it because you knew what they were doing and stuff.
Mhm.
You knew how they were getting their money. So it's just like, I still didn't know why someone came to the group and were dealing or something. I don't know. But anyway, she sees me talking to them and say, "Yeah, watch my car and stuff," because it's like maybe one at night or something. So 1 a.m. So we're going to the house and she's worried about it and stuff. And she's like, we're in the projects. I said, "It's okay. I know those guys." So we go in and do our business, and the supervisor is to talk to me later and stuff. "Ron, do you know drug dealers?" "Yeah,
Maybe.
are you? Is something going on? Are you doing something? Is that trouble?" I said, "Oh," I said, "those guys." I said, "Yeah." I said, "They're on paper. I work with them. They're on probation. They have to come to groups and stuff." So, that's how I know them.
Yeah.
Stuff
It's
like,
like I'm not in the game myself.
right. Thinking of purchasing something, or that's how I know them and stuff. So
How long did you end up doing that for?
I did that for 7 years, and then I went to work at Martin DePorres, uh, Superior for a while and stuff. I worked there. Um, then I think I went to Collinwood. I was in community centers for a while.
That was like
Then
your
it came
calling,
to
wasn't it?
Columbus. Yeah, it was. It was like I was kind of trapped in that whole thing, just kind of like. And to be honest, a couple of times I became like a director or something like that. And I became a assistant director or something like that when I did. And in the organization I was in too, I hated it because it took me away from the people I work with.
Yeah.
Because you're mostly, writing to get money and doing other things. It took you away from that main day-to-day contact with those people.
The enjoyable part.
Right. And I knew that was for me. So I am a case manager to this day because I knew it and stuff when people would offer me something more, they would take it away. And my the guy that hired me first where I was and several times over when he moved up and stuff, he'd say, he was like, when he was always a director or assistant director, he said, "You know what, with you," he said, "I don't understand," because he would take me some meetings and there would be the council people, important people to meet. It was like, he said, he had to remind me who's the names of it. He said, "I don't understand how you don't know the names of council people and stuff like that." And he said, "But you know the names of all the kids and their nicknames." I said, "Because they're not important to me."
Mhm.
they're not important to me. So it's just like I had to relearn their names or something like, who I talked to. I said, but they aren't that important to me. Say, because most of them not going by their real names. All the kids' real names as well as their whatchamacallit, their nicknames and all this, and their brothers and sisters. I said, yeah, because those people aren't important to me.
And you're
You know,
what you were really saying is like, that's where my heart's at, man. My heart it
yeah,
goes to the kids. That's what it's all
it
about.
was, it was. Then it switched over. I came to Columbus and worked with abused seniors for 20 years,
Wow.
investigating allegations of abuse, neglect, and exploitation of older Americans.
And how was that? Just, that moving from Cleveland to Columbus.
I had moved for another community job, but then it was just like, I had married the kids and stuff, and the county, then it was free. Their insurance was free. So it's like an instant thing and stuff. But I was still going to be out in the streets because you had to actually go and investigate the allegations of abuse. So it didn't take me away from the streets, but it gave me more money because it was an actual raise because you didn't have to pay the health care anymore. Yeah, your wife and your kids were free. So that doesn't happen anymore. But when I started there, so it was like, oh, that's great. I got a raise,
So side note, you did lose your virginity. He did
Yeah,
lose
so
it, guys. He did lose it.
I did and stuff. It was like I don't there's a joke when I did finally, and my brother asked me like, yeah, so how was it? And I said, there's a lot of scratching, yelling, and hollering and screaming. I said, the girl did some too.
It's
But yeah,
funny done. It's been done.
yes, but yeah, I was like, I made the right move not to become with the order to Society of Precious Blood. I knew where it was and stuff. So
You're like,
yeah, but yeah, I ran into Brother Hughes like he was in Detroit. He moved up, he moved to a church in Detroit, and I end up going to. I was at a conference in Detroit because they would pay for social work conferences. I was in conference in Detroit. I had a license, so I have a license in Ohio. So you got a CEU. So there's a conference there, and he was there, at this church there. So we got together for drinks and stuff. Like he took me out to this place, connected with him as an adult. And so he was getting ready. I went to the rectory. He said, "Oh," he said, "You're over 18." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Definitely way over 18." He was like, "Oh, you want something to drink?" And I was like, well, Brother Hughes, I'm kind of a Jack Daniels man. I said, "Do you have that?" And he had this cabinet. He opened it up. All this liquor was in there. He said, "Yeah, I think it's some in there." And I said, "Brother Hughes, they let you have all of this liquor?" He said, "They won't let me have sex, but they let me have all liquor." He was hilarious. He was hilarious. But yeah, that was great to see him again too. So, and he was working hard in that community as he usually did. So, yeah.
So you would say
But
you and him had a pretty good relationship.
yeah, he was. I should have saw him more, but I was chasing my life, and that was the last time I seen him. He's passed since then and stuff. So, last time I seen him and stuff, and I think in his eulogy, when they put his eulogy, there was a thing that said, when they called the call or something,
Mm.
and they call his name, he said, "Here in the living color," because there's a few few African American there, so he would say, "Here in living color."
But
But yeah,
man, you're
he
probably
was
beyond blessed when you're just reflecting on it now, just beyond blessed that you met him,
yeah,
that you guys crossed
yeah,
paths.
yeah. He's one of those people you run into and change the trajectory of your life and stuff. But like I said, I'm no longer a Catholic, but yeah. So
Where
And
you
they
at now?
said, once a Catholic, always a Catholic. And,
Where would you say you're at now? If you're not a Catholic no more, where are you at now?
I've done a lot, and like I said, in between that and stuff. Oh, social work. One thing I got out to your people and stuff. There's a book I wrote in the world of social work dealing with kids. It's called "Style Over Substance: A Critical Analysis of African American Teenage Subculture." And
What?
this book, when I write this, and I wrote it with Alan Huff, who was a boss of mine in 1999 when it came out.
Dang.
I, I was between jobs, and I decided to sit down with pencil and paper and write something, and but I was never between jobs because I had the side job for working at the county investigating allegations of child abuse. So I was doing that during the night and doing this during the day, and heard back from like a publisher, and they said, "Hey, but you need to do more on the techniques you use." And I said that was from a thesis from a guy that we used to call the positive education program. And I said it was from the gentleman I worked with for a long time. And his master's thesis was it was successful offspring of single parent black families. He lived in the same projects that I did.
Wow.
And he went to East Tech also too. So I
So,
think a big thing I was taking I was hired during my field placement by him. So I was hired by my field placement by him. I reminded him, I said, I went to the new tech, you went to the old tech, or store down. Because we have an age difference, and he would joke around. Sometimes we'd be having drink. He was like, Mills, how did you avoid, getting in Vietnam and stuff? He said, I had to stay in school and get good grades to make sure, that he said, my number is coming up. He said, how'd you avoid? And I said, if I was like 11, I don't think they wanted me. So I tell them that I don't think they wanted me. I was 11, so.
you know,
But this came out of it, and I got him to join me with it. That's it, because it's from your thesis, and that is my giving some. That's giving my intellect to social work. So
so when did you get into paranormal radio? What interested you in that?
I was with a group of guys, and 2000. There's somebody here that had a studio, Matrix Media, and he was putting together different shows. So I think it was 2005, and he said we're gonna do a show with a group of guys and stuff. And I knew him, and he, it's gonna be kind of African Americans' take on the paranormal. So you can do that and stuff. And I said, oh, it sounds good. The group of guys and stuff. And he said, mainly I was going to do sort of the ins and outs when they did it. It was a podcast and stuff like that. So the voice to do the ins and outs. And, and I would, they all had different tag names. And I would be like, you're listening to The Chosen, heard only on Talktainment Radio, the world's greatest radio. And, these are your hosts, Master Ha, and what's it, Sebek the analyst, R&D engineer, Marshall Barnes. I'd be like, doing their names and stuff like that, and they do that and stuff. But they weren't guest driven, and I would do that, and they weren't guest driven. It was mostly their take on it and stuff. And I did it. It's like, yeah, you should get into something, do something. I've always been interested in the paranormal. It's always been, watch stuff, read stuff on my own and everything. So um, I got them a guest. I got them their first guest, and it was a book about a guy had a near death experience, went to hell, and he's from Ohio too. If you ever get him, you probably could get him on their Storm. My Descend the Hell by, what is his first name? I know it's The last name is Storm, and he's in a church now here. I think I had his book. What is his name? But I had him as a guest, and he because I saw him on the History Channel, and they said now he's a minister in whatchamacallit, a minister in the church in Ohio. So I got him the first guest. He came on and stuff. That's Daniel Storm. I'll look it up for you. But anyway, it was just I got him on there, and as the first thing I read the book, and he didn't believe in anything. He he was in he was didn't believe in anything. He died of peritonitis. I think he was in Italy or was Europe somewhere and stuff. And he said he was over he's looking at his body. His wife was crying and stuff. I think he was in France or something. So he's some professor in the school. And he goes down the hallway because these guys tell him to come down the hallway. He said, "Oh, I thought they were doctors, because we're waiting for a doctor and stuff. And he was there and he said these horrible things happened to him. They yelled at him and disemboweled him. And he tells the story, he cries and stuff. And it's just like. And he said, he just said he didn't know how to pray when he was young. He just sang, yes, Jesus loved me. The Bible told me so. And they were moving away from him saying, you don't believe in that. You don't believe in that. But they moved away when he said it. And they moved away from it. The name scared them. So they moved all away from him and everything. And he was there in the dark by himself. Saw a prick of light. All of a sudden, there he was there with Jesus, asking Jesus questions. So it's one of the most interesting stories I've ever heard of and read and stuff. So I've always been interested in that stuff and watching stuff. So I got to get him on the show. I did. But they didn't do their work. I said, read the book. It's the first guess and stuff. Oh, we don't need to. We can get it. We can do this stuff from our head. We know this stuff. So they didn't. So I ended up commanding the show because I knew what questions to ask. In general, what made you write the book? That's a general question. Yeah, come on now. It's like you read the man's story, how he was before, didn't believe in anything, and afterwards and stuff is like the word. I said. And one guy was a staunch Christian, and I say he asked the big question. I said, so you're there with Jesus Christ. The big question you ask, what religion should I be? He said, Jesus shrugged his shoulders and said, whatever brings you close to God.
Hmm.
It didn't matter to him. So so it was just like I'm telling him you gotta do your work, and stuff. And it's like, and I think they were pissed that I got that guest and this stuff. And they were doing kind of give me things to say. Oh, we'll give you some stuff to say. We'll give you some stuff to say. But that isn't gonna put with me and stuff. I was like, nah. I'm a fan of Coast to Coast.
Yeah.
And nights when I was out going to think I'm listening to Coast to Coast. So it's the greatest thing I ever heard at AM. And it's like it is a torch at night. And George Norrie is on there, and before him Art Bell. It's like this torch in the middle of the night, and it's like almost every station in the U.S. has it, coast to coast. So I listened to an incredible guest on there. So we had this meeting. They're trying to tell me what to say and stuff, and it was like, one guy said, "Yeah, oh, you're gonna say, hey, what you should say is this when you open up and this and this." And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. That sounds silly. That sucks. That's no. So then we were supposed to have this big meeting with the guy who had the show, and then it was like he said, "There's some dissension," and they said they have a meeting. So we're there in the studio. Nobody's there but me. And he said, well, I like to keep the show going. And he said, do you want to do it by yourself? I said, I thought you'd never ask. Right. I was going to do it, never ask. It's like, okay. Well, you change that opening song. It's too slow. Like I was off and running. I mean, you guess too. People have already, we're going to do cryptozoology, UFOs, people that have been taking near-death experiences, we're doing all,
We're going all above.
exorcisms, people, exorcism, people, yeah, I'm doing it all. And I say, because what made me mad one time is I did get a guest, and the guy was talking about um, there was a cure for AIDS. And he said he had it and stuff like that and stuff. And they put him in one of the Sun magazines. They put him in one of those sleazy rags and stuff.
Yeah.
The three-headed babies. They put him in there and stuff. And it's like he's a kook. And I said, "Have you ever seen Men in Black?" I said, "The." I said, "The what's him calling in there? One of the Men in Black, the Tommy Lee character, goes up there, and he says, 'I got to get information.' So he goes to get one of those rags, like the sun and stuff. And the Will Smith character said, 'There's nothing in that.' He said, 'In this we hide the truth, with the lies.'" So they found out where the ship was. The ship was, that they were looking for. He said, "In this we hide the truth with the lies." Just information. You gonna call somebody a kook, and they kind of. I said, if you laugh at people, it's up to our audience to decide what they are. You just want to hear their story. You want to get the information, what they know, how they know it, and let the audience decide. You just ask the questions. You don't do that. I said, because nobody will come on this show. Nobody will come on this show. And I said, and none of you have gotten any guests. If you chase away the guest, I said, because they will not, in this paranormal community, if you laugh at them, they will not be on the show.
Yeah.
You let the audience decide if the audience itself, but you just ask the question. And I said, how many times have we laughed at people that have been right and we didn't know they were? I said, I had clients that told me when I was working at with the 20 years with them, they talked about Agent Orange. They sprayed that stuff on me and I ain't been right ever since. The government said, no, nothing happened for years. Then they admitted it. They did do Agent Orange. Because the Geneva Convention said when they use mustard gas, they said, hey, no. They said, we got rules of war. You can't use the biological weapons. And it's only wrong if you get caught. How many times do people have done that and stuff? So they finally admitted, yes, they did. They said for years, the Tuskegee experiment didn't happen. To a reporter got all the information and stuff, and they was like, "Okay, yeah, okay, we did."
Yeah, we did.
Right, right. You admitted to you caught with sports. Sports, they say it's only cheating till you get caught. If you don't get caught, it's not cheating. So I was telling them, I said, you will look up and somebody will say something and you will be wrong. I said, think about it all through history. I can't think of the doctor. It's like, hey, we got to clean up and wash up. There's things we can't see called germs and stuff. I think they're killing our patients. You're a kook. This shows us a surgeon. You have the blood on your smock. You wear the bloody smock. And I think we should wash our hands. We find out he was right. So I said, you don't know what people know. You don't know. And I said, so we just ask the questions. Let the audience decide. Now, if they look if they sound mentally ill, yeah. But there's a lot of people out there that honestly things have happened to them. Something happened to them. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it is. So I was doing that, and I told him, I said, yeah, we're going to change the tempo and stuff. And then I was oh, yes, it was me, myself. I was the navigator. I called myself the navigator. Yeah, I had a tagline. My tagline was when I was going in and out with the commercials, doubt if you dare, but believe if you have the courage, because you're listening to The Chosen, heard only on Talktainment Radio. So that was what my tagline, doubt if you dare, but believe if you have the courage. And so I did that for about 5 years or stuff, and I ran the gamut on almost anybody I want to hear and stuff. It started off at first kind of hard getting guests. And then when it got around the community, people had been on there, people were sending me books and stuff like that. And I had stuff and going and stuff, and they had guests and stuff. ghost whisperers, near death experience and stuff. Cryptozoologist, the foremost person on what Larry Otto on spontaneous human combustion, because I saw him on what's that show Unsolved Mysteries. I said, oh my God, I gotta get that guy, and so I was getting people, that I've always wanted to talk to and everything. And I just kind of ran the gambit with it. I think one of my most important people that I got Kathleen Martin, who was the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, who who were taken and abducted by a UFO and examined and everything and stuff. Because I remember seeing that movie on I think it was in 1975, the UFO incident. And I'm gonna give my age because I think it was when you had like 3 or 4 channels on the TV, and they'd be like,
Years.
"Yes, the movie of the week, a movie made especially for ABC, tonight." And James Earl Jones played Barney Hill. So I said African American was abducted by a UFO and stuff, and they tried to keep it secret, but it came out because they couldn't sleep. They had this lost time. They couldn't sleep. They just have these nightmares. They went under hypnosis, and you could go and listen to it online. Hypnosis that they didn't know they were abducted. They had this lost time, you know, and him seeing they were being followed and everything and stuff. And this happened in the 50s. So, and they were the ones that introduced us to the Greys. The Greys was, and then there's another link. When they had her on the hypnosis, she asked them because they had Barney out. He was ex-military. They had him out. She was walking around, and she said, "What?" Uh, she said, Betty was like, "Well, where do you come from?" And they showed a star map. They said, "Where are you on here?" And she said, "I don't know." And they said, "Why would we tell you where we're from if you don't know where you are?"
Oh.
But they kind of pointed it out. And so she drew it on the hypnosis. He had her draw it on the hypnosis. And it's Zeta Reticuli, which we put with the Greys to this day and stuff. But there's no such star system. Of course, our government would say that there's no star system. But a school teacher who is this uh, part-time astronomer looking up stuff, go through the star maps, and guess what she finds? With the newer telescopes, because when did they get abducted? Like in the 50s or something? I know because they're in this. She was white, he was black. When they were coming back from, I think, Ontario, and they were afraid Barney had his gun because I get killed. I'm with a white woman, this is white,
Yep.
but they're coming back and stuff, and but then she looks up and there are more star maps done. She matches it out. Yes, it does. Here it is, the star system, and they agree with her. So Zeta Reticuli, that's how we know where the Greys are from. So
Wow.
yeah, and I had the niece there, and she was like, yeah, they became famous and didn't want to become famous because the person that sold them out was a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to. He didn't want that to get out and sound like kooks, but something had happened to them. So it's all this interesting stuff, and I just kind of delve into it and did it and stuff, and I was like, I told him, I said the opening songs that you have are like slow and stuff. I said we need to get to it, and I said I want a countdown because as a fan of Lost in Space. Yeah, but the first one, the computer part, they had, I think it's like the second or third season. They had this upbeat one was a countdown because Dr. Smith would get into something with Will and stuff, and then whatever would appear, something would happen, and then there would be this countdown back and this bombastic music and stuff. But the person who did it and stuff was a guy called Johnny Williams, which we call John Williams then, that did, the original opening for Lost in Space, from Raiders of the Lost Ark, Star Wars, and everything. He did that. I said, "This is countdown." He speeds up the song, and I said, "It's really good." So I said, "I wanted to count down and stuff," and the sound guy put it together and stuff. And I think, what did I used to say? It's like, yeah, uh, we're starting into the journey of the weird, the strange, and the paranormal. It starts now. The countdown would go, and I do that and stuff. And you know, you're listening to The Chosen, and I'm Ron Mills. I'm your navigator into these journeys of the weird, the strange, and the paranormal. But you can call me. Give me a call. 1-877-932-77. I do that. And the weird thing is, I wouldn't get hardly any calls. But then I looked up and they told me, they had these different shows. You have the best show and you're getting all these hits. And I was like, but nobody calls and stuff. And the other guy told me, he said, yeah, because you're not really in America. It was like, your biggest listeners are here in New Zealand, this, because it's the internet.
Yeah.
And I got one guy that's like, hey, what you did? I want to be on your show. And he wrote the Space Brothers and his media and stuff. And he was in New Zealand. And the guy called me from Maryland. And I said, oh, so you're from Maryland? And they said, you're his agent. And I said, so you listen to the show? He said, no, he does. He gets it a day later, at his time. So I had him on, but I had to do it Easter Sunday because my show came on Monday. So I had to do it Easter Sunday. So it would be like there and stuff with the time frame and stuff. So I had to do it, come in Easter Sunday and do that.
That's
And
it's
so
always the fun part, the different time zones.
right,
A lot of people don't realize there's a lot of work going on there.
right. And I was like, I must not be getting any calls or something. When they had all the other shows, they lined up and they were like, talking about different things. And they said, oh, we want to give you, your feeds and what's going out, numbers and stuff. And I was like, so I said, what, I got 10 listeners or something? And he was like, Ron, there's the rest of us and there's you. And I said, what do you mean? The rest of us and you. And they said, here's your listeners. And it's like, they're just in different places all over the code. It's like, oh, okay. I like it. Oh, that's what's going on. So, but I did it. And then it was like, yeah, went out and that was it. And then I started from all that writing again and stuff because I had things about angels and stuff. I have the book called Healers.
Healers.
Three Tales of Miracles, Angels, and Lost Souls. It is fiction, takes place in Cleveland, Ohio, and it's sold on Amazon, it's sold on Walmart, it's sold on, so it's 267 pages and like 2 years of me writing at night and stuff like that. That's my life, but it is. There's three great stories in there that take place about people, ordinary people, to get the power to heal and how it changes their life. The first story is called The Gangster and the Gift. It's about a 17-year-old that joins the street gang. And him and his friend is there, and all of a sudden he gets the power to heal and how it changes his life.
That sounds
The second story is called Good Intentions, because you hear that the road to good intentions is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's about a storefront minister. He's honest, hardworking, competing with mega churches. He experienced a miracle when he was younger. He has an aging population that he's working. He gets the power to heal. If you want the power, he's able to heal. It changes him in a bad way. It puts him in a course with a cursed angel. So the third one is called Only Women Bleed. and stuff. And it might be familiar because that sounds like a Alice Cooper song. So,
Yep.
but yeah, so Only Women Bleed is about Marlene. She is in her 20s. She's the young mother of two, and what happens is she ends up with the power to heal instantaneously, and it changes her life. And is told by a gentleman that experienced a miracle himself. He's in the McDonald's telling his friends that there are modern day healers, just like we've heard and stuff. Because I got this idea when I was working, like still working night shift. I come in and stuff, turn on the TV, and I look up there, and it's this preacher talking about he can heal, and he would say stuff, and it's like, that's a bunch of crock. And then he put these, if you send him $5, he had these healing, what were they? They're healing cloths. He put his hands in them, act like he's talking in tongue and stuff. And he give them back to you, send them $5 and mail them back to you and stuff. And I was like, if people could really heal, would they be out there out front like that, or would they be doing it on the side? Because last thing, people would be running to you, social media would be all over you, and
Well,
so it would be crazy. And this is a little before social media. This book was written a little before social media and stuff, which really came out and then jazzed up a little really during COVID. COVID. So it's interesting. I redid it. You can see a black and white version. That was the first one. And that was in 2000. But it was come up as a little bit up, but the years is back before cell phones were there, but not social media was crazy. Probably a little MySpace, but yeah, it was one of those things where it's just I think it's time to send it back out again. To send it back out. It's an interesting story. You'll like it. It is fiction and stuff, but angels have always interested me and stuff. So I've had people on to talk about angels because I said it's an incredible dichotomy that these beings were made before us, and the creator gave them the freedom, the choice of what they wanted to do, because we know the angels left and they're not going to serve men, and they're now the morning star Lucifer and stuff, a third of heaven left. And there was a war there, so we know it's interesting to ask, what is going on with that, and they were there, because they were there because the creators let us make man. One of my favorite movies is The Prophecy with God, what is his name? I can't think of it. God, famous actor. Got in trouble with the Natalie Wood thing and stuff.
Mel,
But
Mel Gibson.
no, not Mel Gibson. Oh God, in The Prophecy. But my phone is recording. I would look it up and stuff. But that whole thing was he was angry, and he played. We've seen quite a few movies with Michael being angry and stuff like that, the angel Michael and stuff. And it was like Dominion is one of them too, the offspring with that and stuff. So that series, but he was kind of angry, and he was like, and it was the Rock priest became a detective, and there was his killings and stuff. And it was interesting because there are rules for angels. Christopher Walken. And Christopher Walken, yes, he would get people to drive for him. Because there's one guy committed suicide. He said, not yet. He brought him back. He said, why don't you let me die? I need you, And he was like, yeah, to drive the car wherever he's going. He was like, what the hell is it? He said, I don't know. It's something about, mechanical stuff. Can't do it,
He
And
kind of
he's
died a
telling
little
him,
bit for me.
yeah, you would have him drive stuff to him, drive stuff and bring people back and stuff like that. The frog priest, because he was looking for the soul that had pure evil, and people should check it out. It's a really good movie. And because the guy became a cop because he was going to take his vows as a priest, but then he lost his faith somewhere along the line. He got it back during this whole thing and stuff, you know, fighting this angel and stuff that's looking for this soul and stuff, you know. And he was like, I think it was a famous line there where they're fighting and stuff, and he was like, you know, I think he ran into him with a car and stuff that didn't stop him and everything. And he was like, you know, if this happened for a reason. You know, he said, God put you monkeys over us. You know, it was, and he was like, he said, well, why don't you ask God?
Welcome back from another commercial break.
Okay. Yeah, he asked, he said, why he asked God why he did it? And Christopher Walken says, the same thing. He said, I would, but he doesn't talk to me anymore, so, which was like in Dominion, God took off. And so half the angels they pissed off at man. They was like, he took off. We don't know where he went, and it's your fault. It's the man's fault. So it was like this whole thing, where that was an interesting series too. Pissed off from the prophecy, but those are good things. So I wrote that and everything. If you're into a novella, I have a novella called, and it's only on Kindle on Amazon, called Island Alien. Took a trip to Putin Bay, and I thought it was interesting. This is an interesting island, and I said there are kids here and there's a school here, but it must suck to be a kid here because there's like especially in the summer and stuff, and there's most of them, if they got people to hang out in the mainland, just like because this is bar land for adults and stuff, hanging around. So it must suck to be a kid here. So I did a story about a kid that you know he's stuck on the island for the summer, and he encounters an alien. The land. So I said, be an interesting place for an alien to land, and he encounters an alien, and that story is told there and stuff. And it's about 49 pages. Novella is 99 cents. People say, why are you writing novella and stuff? And I called it the cell phone series because my buddy was like, I don't read. He told me then, he said, going to work, I read stuff on my phone. I said, I said, I got a Kindle. You can hardly see it. He said, I read a lot of stuff on phone, and a lot of people do it and stuff. So I was like, well, when I do it, I called it First in the Cell Phone series. And it's a very interesting story and stuff. And tells about his father having a paranormal podcast that he didn't like, the son and stuff, and why. So that's a little of me in there. It's just, so.
Hey, as we wrap this thing up, I just want to simply say thank you for coming on the show and telling your story, sharing your stories.
Yeah. Thank you. And there's a lot. You'll cut it down. So
yes.
thanks.
If anybody wants to get a hold of you, contact you, how can they do
that? You could the books are on Amazon everywhere else. You can go there and stuff. You get my Gmail is rxmeals, the number 8 at gmail.com. So,
all right, sounds good, man.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Ron, for coming on. It's truly an honor and a privilege. Anybody else that is watching right now, listening, if you'd like to come on, this is a platform for everyone. Everybody can come on. You want to talk about your story, just like how Ron did today? Feel free to contact me. You got a testimony to share? Feel free to contact me. Let's make it happen. This is Chris. That's Ron. Peace out.